2004, General Motors released their Chevrolet Cobalt. It was the vehicle they had to compete with the small economy car race of the mid-2000s. The Chevrolet Cobalt looked like a very promising vehicle. It offered style, safety, economy, and fuel efficiency for a relatively low price. So, when Chevrolet took the Cobalt and they tried to market it to young consumers, they did this by going to different beach events and spring break locations throughout the United States. They would take the car, sponsor a concert, show it off, and all the students who absolutely loved it would go out and buy one. They had a sporty option called the supercharged SS model, which boasted 205 horsepower from a supercharged engine, and it also had a 5-speed manual transmission. Chevrolet Cobalt was ranked Consumer Buy's best choice and was an IIHS top safety pick. The car was doing fantastic. It looked like a real winner. So what went wrong at General Motors and what went wrong with the Chevrolet Cobalt? Let's take a look. Back in 2004, the Chevrolet Cobalt was using an ignition plunger spring manufacturer named Delphi. Delphi produced all the ignition plunger springs for their vehicle. This is what it looks like. It's a small cylindrical piece with a spring attached to it. When you would insert your key into the ignition, that key would turn this piece here. It requires a certain amount of torque. General Motors standard required the amount of torque to turn from here to here to be about 15 pound-feet. The problem is that this spring wasn't providing enough resistance, so the torque that was needed to move this plunger spring from off to on was only 5 pound-feet. That was exactly 3 times easier when turning the key than General Motors required it to be. When Delphi presented this information to General Motors said the tooling cost and piece price are too high, that none of the solutions represent an acceptable business model. That quote is from Fritz Henderson, the CEO of General Motors at the time. So what does this mean? This means that General Motors was placing the safety of their customers and the safety of all road driving Americans at risk back in 2004 until 2011 when the Chevrolet Cobalt was on the road. This could have very easily been avoided. All General Motors needed to do was get a new plunger spring with an additional 1.6 millimeters added additionally to the spring. That would have had a piece with enough torque that the key, when driving at highway speeds down the roads, would not easily be dislodged or come undone when cruising down the highway. So what happened is, all these people would be driving down the road, they'd accidentally hit their keys or they'd hit a bump, and if they had a large keychain or if they were considered to be short by General Motors, they could accidentally hit the key with their knee and accidentally move the plunger spring from the on position to the off position. This is a problem because many drivers do not realize that when you turn off the car while driving, the car needs to be put either in neutral or in park before turning that key back to the start position. If you don't put the car in neutral and park, turning the key to start isn't going to do anything at all. A lot of drivers did not realize this and they would actually get into accidents. General Motors, when this came to their attention, they initially launched a lot of investigations looking into what the problem would be. And many engineers at General Motors even warned the people in corporate, hey, this is the problem. The manufacturer Delphi told them, this is the problem. It's this 57-cent piece that you think is too expensive to replace. So General Motors ignored it. They sent out a bulletin to their dealerships stating the customers should be advised of this potential and should remove unessential items from their key ring. So they knew this was a problem, but instead they just said a small warning clause like that to the dealerships to say as a disclaimer to their customers. In addition, they also said that even though the car is turned off while driving, it is still possible to maintain control despite losing power brakes, power steering, airbag functionality, and the ability to accelerate. They said it just adds more difficulty while driving, which is not an acceptable solution. General Motors didn't recall the vehicles initially because the car was doing so well. They were the 3rd best-selling economy vehicle in America at the time, only behind the Ford Focus and the Toyota Corolla. Additionally, moving on from there, the gas price surge of 2005 under the Bush administration caused the sales of their SUV models, the very popular Tahoe and the extremely popular Suburban, to actually take a decline. When those cars took a decline, they were counting on the Chevrolet Cobalt, their economy car, which was great on gas mileage, to pick sales back up. In 2005, they posted a $1.1 billion first quarter loss for the year, so they really need the Cobalt to be their saving grace. This is terrible because it really shows that General Motors was putting the human lives, they value human lives at less than 57 cents. They are completely disrespecting human dignity, and the integrity of the company under Fritz Henderson was completely terrible. The only good thing about this is when Mary Barra became the CEO of General Motors early in 2014, she issued an immediate recall of these vehicles. She handled this issue in a very prudent manner. She valued human lives, and she really took care of the company. She currently is a CEO. She issued a complete recall. She acted in a very just and very prudent way. She did a great job, and under her leadership, General Motors is sure to see great success. Thank you.
We love baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet.
That's baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet.
Baseball and hot